to Morpheus Chair, the program where you learn how to build robots like these from your comfy chairs. First of all, I would like to talk seriously about ANKI robot. So the company ANKI has closed their doors, or at least they are doing so. It's a really sad topic because I really loved Cosmo and Vector, and I think they were the best commercial robots available, really, for development and also for their personalities. Let's send ANKI a positive message with the hashtag WeLoveYouANKI, telling them what you have done, how you really loved their robots, because they really deserve it. Another thing. So, in this season 3, we're going to work with this little bad boy. So, this little bad boy is a pan and tilt. So, you can move it, you can do yaw, and you can do pitch, and you can control it with the Raspberry Pi. So what we're going to build with this is we're going to control it with ROS through the Raspberry Pi, and we're going to try to do face tracking, face recognition, and more things. In this first episode, what we're going to do is set up Raspberry Pi so that we can use it and move the servos and create a simple Python class that moves the servos and gives us the whole control for moving it. And that way we will have a perfect pan and tilt. Yeah, very cheap and with a camera mounted on top. Without further ado, to the workbench. So here we are. In this part, I'm going to show you how to set up your Raspberry Pi so that you can use this pan and tilt hat made by Waveshare. If you want to know more about the code and more examples, please have a look at their GitHub. It has examples for C++, for JavaScript, and so on. So it's quite interesting. But here we're going to talk about how to set up the system and how to execute a program to move the pan and tilts with Python. Yeah, so let's go. So the first thing is I've generated this public Git for everyone that you can download, and here you will find all the code that we generate throughout this new season 3. Yeah? Okay, so the first thing is we have to connect to our Raspberry Pi. If you can't do SSH, then you have to set up your Raspberry Pi to be able to do SSH. For that, I have the code here. So let's have a look. So here in the repo, basically, we have a setup folder, and inside we have this UbuntuMats Raspberry Pi setup. And here you have all the commands that you'll have to execute to be able to do SSH to the Raspberry Pi through your computer, and not and you won't have to connect a keyboard and connect the Raspberry Pi to an external monitor and so on. So this is the bare minimum that you have to install manually and with a keyboard and screen connected to the Raspberry Pi. After that, I think we won't need anymore to be connected physically to a screen. I'll leave a link to some videos that I explain more in depth, and I show you how to do this exactly. Okay, the next thing is you can execute this once you have SSH capabilities. So first thing, we connect through SSH. So there we go. you have to put the username and the IP, and then the password. Okay, once you have it, you're inside the Raspberry Pi. And here is where the ROS setup comes into place. So we won't need it for this episode, but we'll need it in the next episode. So it's good to have it already. So you'll have to execute this script that installs ROS Kinetic and generates this workspace so that you can put the code there. Yeah? Okay, so we go to Catkin workspace, and inside here, go to source, and here I've downloaded the code from the Git repo. Yeah? You just clone it and you'll have it there. So, things that we have to do in order to make this work. So here I have a tiny script that shows you how you can set the Raspberry Pi to be able to use the pan&tilt hat. Yeah. So the first thing is you have to edit this file. There you go. And inside this file, we have to look for this parameter. So we go here. Oh, sorry. There you go. So as you can see, there are some. So we are looking for this I2C arm. So there you go. So we have only these two. And what we have to do is uncomment it and put on. Yeah, because normally you'll find it as off. So very important this. Another thing that we have to edit is this file here, modules. And we have to add this I2C developer. Yeah. Doing these two things and executing this command, which installs the I2C tools, which normally it's installed, pre-installed in UbuntuMats, but just in case I put it here. The Raspberry Pi pan&tilt should work. I highly recommend that you do a sudo reboot just in case, and then it should work. Okay? So now I'm going to show you the code to make it work. So as I told you, in the official webpage, you can find the GitHub, and inside it you have code that you can use to test it. And I've extracted that code for Python, and I've placed it in this package, pan&tilt control in scripts, main. And this is the original script, which was very, very basic, but basically it's a good way to see if it works. You just have to execute it, and that's it. Yeah, so if we go to pan&tilt control, and we go to scripts, you see here we have the main. You just have to do Python main, and it should move the pan&tilt. And there you go. Yeah. The only problem about this program is that it's basic, and also it doesn't clean the connections. Yeah. So what we're going to do is create a class that encapsulates everything and also adds this cleanup function and other testing functions. Yeah. So here we go. Let me just, I'm going to execute. There you go. Because otherwise I would have the pan and tilt working and buzzing all the time. So let's have a look. So I've created this class which uses this same method that the main example uses, that basically implements the communication for this chipset, PCA 9685, which is a chipset that basically encapsulates a way of generating PWM for electronics. It was for LEDs, but also it's used for servos. So this class, we do the following. We have an init method and a delete method. The delete method is called when this class is deleted, is destroyed, the object of this class, yeah, the instance of this class. So here we are cleaning up, and this is really important if you want your pan and tilt to stop buzzing when you're not using it, okay? Otherwise, the first time that you execute this code, then it will keep on buzzing until you power off your Raspberry Pi. So we have the init, and in the init we initialize this class for communication with the chipset. We set the frequency, which is 50, and don't change it. It works like that. That's it. But this chipset, in theory, supports 1600, but for servos, place 50. Yeah. We set it here, and then we initialize it with angle 0 and 0. Yeah, and we move the pitch and yaw. So this class executes the move yaw and move pitch, and inside each one we set the rotation for the servo 0 and servo 1, which is yaw and pitch. That's it. So this is the only code that makes the pan and tilt move. That it's really, really simple. The other methods that I've placed here are for testing. And it's really important because depending on your servos and the luck that you have, the servos will have different ranges. You'll see it in the demo part that I'll do just when we finish this explanation. But basically, not all servos work the same way, and some have higher limits, others lower limits, and you have to test them. So it's really neat that we have some testing feature. So just to explain a bit, we have the pitch and yaw range, which executes a movement in the range from 10 degrees to 170. I assure you that my servos can't do this. So especially the yaw one, if you put it at 170, it just doesn't move. And the worst thing is that if you try to go back to values that should work, sometimes it doesn't. So bear that in mind. The limits are really important and you have to test it for your application. So here we have for the yaw, the pitch, and then we have also an input, which you just place the angle that you want and the servo moves to that angle. And then this circle test, which is really neat to see exactly the dynamics of your pan and tilt. And it's a perfect test to know if it's working or not. Yeah, and that's it. We have some functions here that use the object, and then we have the main that calls the test that you want. Yeah, so let's see how this works. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is execute the pan and tilt move, which by default it has the circle test. So let's have a look. So there we go, it starts buzzing, and then we start it. There you go. In this case, I've set it to 3 repetitions. There you go, fantastic. So what if we want to do other stuff? Like, for example, let's have a look at the pan and tilt script. There we go. So I want to do, for example, the input pitch or the yaw first. Let's put the yaw and let's comment this. Right and quit. And let's execute this. Oops, sorry. Let's execute it. It sets up every time to the 0, 0 position. Yeah. As you can see, it's in the maximum, and that's why it's buzzing so much. So what angle? For example, let's put 100. There we go. 50. 1. 120. 25. That's, as you can see, it works pretty well, but let's try something. For example, 0. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, it's working pretty well. Yeah. There you go. Okay, so we have the pan and tilt more or less working. Yeah. And we can do the same thing. And as you can see or hear, you see that it stops buzzing at the moment that we close the Python. And that's because we're doing this delete function that we're doing here. That we're doing here. So it's really, really important that you do it. Yeah. And for example, we can do also, let's have a look. We can play with the pitch also. So let's play with pitch. There we go. For example, 100, 10, 100, 60, 35, 10, 25. You see that it didn't move, so you have to be careful with the limits, so the minimum maximum limits, or because otherwise it could get stuck. There you go. Normally if you ask him to move in a very different position, it will move. There you go. Let's put 30, 20. You see that it doesn't really move from when you go to 30, it sometimes gives a lot of problems. Yeah. So from 100, for example, to 0, it moves there. 100 to 20, it seems exactly the same. So bear that in mind. Yeah. There you go. And that's quite it. That's all for today. I hope you liked the video. Please leave a like if you did so, and consider subscribing because we publish videos every day about ROS and robotics related topics. And in the next video, we are going to move the robot through ROS. So we're going to do a node that subscribes to a topic, and through that topic, we're going to control the pan and tilt. Yeah? So until then, keep building. Keep building. Keep building, keep building, 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 keep building, building. Do 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 do.